July 25, 2025. Daily Bread. Passage: 1 Chronicles chapter 12 verse 23 to 40. Key verse: verse 38. Title: All Israel come to make David king. These are the numbers of the divisions of the armed troops who came to David in Hebron to turn the kingdom of Saul over to him, according to the word of the Lord. The men of Judah bearing shield and spear were 6,800 armed troops. Of the Simonites, mighty men of valor for war, 7,100. Of the Levites, 4,600. The prince Jehoiada, of the house of Aaron, and with him 3,700. Zadok, a young man mighty in valor, and 22 commanders from his own father's house. Of the Benjaminites, the kinsmen of Saul, 3,000, of whom the majority had to that point kept their allegiance to the house of Saul. Of the Ephraimites 20,800, mighty men of valor, famous men in their father's houses. Of the half-tribe of Manasseh 18,000, who were expressly named to come and make David king. Of Issachar, men who had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, 200 chiefs, and all their kinsmen under their command. Of Zebulun 50,000 seasoned troops, equipped for battle with all the weapons of war, to help David with singleness of purpose. Of Naphtali 1,000 commanders with whom were 37,000 men armed with shield and spear. Of the Danites 28,600 men equipped for battle. Of Asher 40,000 seasoned troops ready for battle. Of the Reubenites and Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh from beyond the Jordan, 120,000 men armed with all the weapons of war. All these men of war, arrayed in battle order, came to Hebron with a whole heart to make David king over all Israel. Likewise, all the rest of Israel were of a single mind to make David king. And they were there with David for 3 days, eating and drinking, for their brothers had made preparation for them. And also their relatives, from as far as Issachar and Zebulun and Naphtali, came bringing food on donkeys and on camels and on mules and on oxen, abundant provisions of flour, cakes of figs, clusters of raisins, and wine and oil, oxen and sheep, for there was joy in Israel. Daily Bread Message. After Saul's death, David was anointed king of Judah. Then, warriors from the northern tribes who had followed Ish-bosheth son of Saul came to support David. They acknowledged David as king of Israel according to God's promise. They committed to David with undivided loyalty to establish a united nation. So, David never had to force his reign. He waited for God to fulfill his promises. In God's time, all tribes were willing to make David the shepherd king over Israel. It demonstrates God's sovereign control over history and his faithfulness in fulfilling his promises. Crowning their rightful and anointed king brought the people joy. They spent 3 days with David, eating, drinking, and enjoying a great national feast. They were so delighted at the enthroning of their rightful and God-anointed king, they contributed richly by sending in supplies for the celebratory event. This feast came from recognizing and participating in God's work. Believers who come to Christ with loyalty and unity will experience the ultimate feast in His eternal kingdom. Prayer. Lord, raise up spiritual leaders who can shepherd your people and the world. Help us wait on you patiently and follow your leading. One word. Unity in God brings joy.